Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, Trea Turner just cashed out with the Philadelphia Phillies, but what does that mean for Dansby Swanson?
And Trae Young is taking his talents to Gotham, but is he taking the drama with him too?
And last but not least, and for the culture, Kenny Smith wants all the smoke. We'll talk about all that next right here on ATL Day One. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start off by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure you leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate that from you in advance. How about this? You don't want to hide greatness because we don't hide greatness on this show, and you shouldn't as well. And also, if you're tired of listening to us on your phone and you want to check us out on the big screen, check us out on Roku, and Amazon Fire. You just download the Locked On Sports Atlanta app, and we will pop right up. You can get all the episodes you want. You can get gluttonous with the ATL Day Ones. Now, Trea Turner signs an 11-year, $300 million contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. Last time I checked, they're in the same division. They're in the NL East, and they spanked the Braves to make a run to the World Series. Came up a little short against Dusty Baker and company, but I think that's one of the things that we are paying attention to, and I think that we should pay attention to, and I think that Alex Anthopoulos might be paying attention to it as well. But what do you think this means for Dansby Swanson going forward?
I think it gives him some more leverage because Trea Turner's gone. Carlos Correa is almost there. A report just came out that the Boston Red Sox are pursuing Xander Bogaerts. So if everybody, kind of in those spaces, if you will, that really kind of gives you the leverage. If they're coming off the table, then it becomes okay. So one of two things: either they're setting the market, which of course we know Trea Turner is considered to be, higher level, if you will, just a tad bit there. Carlos Correa the same, but if it's 2 years, or 11 years and $300 million, you are essentially saying, hey, we're just going to pay you $30 million a year. And so how does that set the market? From what I'm being told, it sets the market for Dansby around 25. But the thought process was, hey, the Braves would really prefer to kind of come in the space of 20 mil because they also have to think about what they're paying Austin Riley. And so that takes into consideration, regardless of the fact that he's at third base versus this is a shortstop. But those are the kinds of things you have to consider. And if you can actually or want to actually get this deal done while you have someone like Vaughn Grissom, who is, I believe, with Ron Washington, doing some one-on-ones right now, helping him to improve his skill set as a shortstop. And then you, of course, have Orlando Arcia. Not to say that any of those guys are where Dansby is, but when you have a deal like that on the table for Trea Turner and Carlos Correa, and you know what's coming with all those guys who are like right there with Dansby Swanson, to me, that just means advantage Dansby.
Absolutely. And I think that it is a market-setting contract, I believe, because when you think about all those names you just named, Carlos Correa, Xander Bogaerts, Dansby Swanson, those guys are not too far off from a production standpoint. And, Dansby is coming off career highs,
right,
at the plate and everything like that. So I think those are some of the things that are to his advantage, right? But I think that from my standpoint, I think that the $20 million that the Braves are reportedly offering or a year, and no more than 22 annually, I think that's the thing that I feel like the Braves should stand on, right? Because, Dansby is 29 years old. And these are career highs. And I've always fall back on this. It may not be true for baseball players, but when it comes to football players, guys who have career highs and contract years, that's a red flag for me. You know what I'm saying? And I love Dansby. Dansby is the face of the organization from, born and raised, all that good stuff. But when it comes down to brass tacks, I kind of have to proceed with caution, and I want to stick at a number that I'm comfortable with, and be careful not to get into numbers that I'm not comfortable paying those guys. And I think Alex Anthopoulos is doing a really good job of that now. I think the other
piece there is this. while I hear what you're saying, I think with Dansby, unlike with a lot of football players, a lot of times you see in the NFL where it is like this is where the player was, and then all of a sudden they go up
Yeah,
in that
off a
contract
cliff.
years and they come right back down. I think with
Hmm.
Dansby, the one thing I like is that he's been progressing steadily every year.
There you
So
go.
he's gotten better and better
Hmm.
with the tools that are in his toolbox versus say, hey, I'm just going to ball out 1 year. That's the thing I like about him. And then age wise, well, Xander Bogaerts is 29, 30, going on 30. Carlos Correa is like 28. So I think he's still right in that space as far as if they're getting those years. Not to say that Trea Turner is going to, for example, play out, his entire 11 years, but just saying, like he's
Yeah.
at least right there in the age range for those guys. And at least he has had a trajectory of improvement year over year.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And I think that that's the thing that I think Alex Anthopoulos think about. One thing about him, we know and we understand that he think about
Mhm.
all aspects of it, right? And he kind of puts everything together and then comes to a nice conclusion. And I
Mhm.
think that like at the end of the day, the Braves are going to come out on top regardless of whether Dansby Swanson resigns or not. And I think
Yeah.
that another Brave though that we were kind of wondering, pondering, or whether or not he was going to come back is Kenley Jansen. We found
Mhm.
out that he signed with the Boston Red Sox, 2 years, $32 million,
Yeah.
and I think that that's something that I think that would trigger more Alex Anthopoulos to kind of maybe to start to move in a different direction. Because when you think about having Raciel Iglesias, and we saw what he did when he came in this year, it was
Mhm.
really did a really nice job, and I think he'll be able to slide into that closer role.
Yeah.
But I think for me, T, I think it's a matter of now that Kenley Jansen's gone, is out of the picture,
Mhm.
like who's going to be that setup guy? Because
Yeah.
Raciel Iglesias was very valuable coming down the stretch in that role.
I think the same. I think that when you look at particularly, he had that lights out game in Raciel Iglesias, that is
Mhm.
in the postseason, right,
Right,
against the Phillies. So you look at that as kind of like one of many amazing outings that he had in his brief stint with the Braves in 2022. But yeah, when you begin to look kind of back and up, I don't know, it's interesting because I don't want to say I don't know if
mhm,
there's that guy in place. I think that there could be opportunities there. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm looking at Alex Anthopoulos and I'm saying, okay, what's down in the minors? That's where I
mhm.
think there
Yeah,
are individuals in the bullpen already that he could possibly elevate into that space who could
right,
be quite fine. And then you look at those coming off of injury, if you will. But I think when all of those things are kind of put together and the way that he has so masterfully, as we saw last year, three rookies come up from the minors and do just damage. So
right.
for me, it's kind of like I want to hear and kind of see, okay, where do you go with this in terms of, excuse me, maybe not the bridge guy per se, but maybe if you're looking at who's in space, you're looking at an AJ Mentor or Kirby Yates, Colin McHugh, depending on if you keep those guys or not.
Right.
Is there anyone in that space, or even a Dylan Lee? Is there anyone
Yeah,
in that space who could bridge the gap? And then maybe you can go to the minors and kind of pull up someone who can kind of round out your bullpen.
yeah. And the one thing we can say that we know for sure, like you say, maybe some things that we don't know, but we know that the Braves have options, T, and they have
Man,
about 4 or 5 guys vying for that fifth spot in the
yeah.
rotation. So you may be able to slide one of those guys back, and or maybe a Bryce Elder, like you like what you saw
Mhm.
starting, but hey, he might be a 1 or 2 inning setup guy that you can
Yes.
use from time to time. So we know the Braves have options, and we know that Alex Anthopoulos is going to get this thing figured out, and hopefully we can come to a conclusion whether or not Dansby Swanson is going to be wearing a Braves uniform or not. Because I'm trying to get this thing solved. To you, I want an answer. I want answers. I want the Braves to kind of get this thing going. But also, speaking of getting things going, Dean P's coming into the season. We know that when he came in with all the Deanisms and the Peaceisms and everything in training camp about changing the culture around the defense. And I think that if we're looking at the numbers overall, right? What at 29th in yards given up, and at the bottom of the league as far in the kind of middle of the pack as far as
Mhm.
points given up over overall. But T, we've talked about on this show how the last few games you holding teams to under 20 points. It may
Right.
not look that great, but at the end of the day, points given up is what matters when you're talking about a defense. So is Dean Pease kind of starting to change that culture, or how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I do believe that he has. And I want to be careful for people not to just look at the end result, meaning, okay, yes, look, Falcons are 5-8. Got it.
Right.
But if you dig deeper into where that 5-8 came from, let's keep it real. The defense has done their job, especially these last 4 games. It's the offense that has sputtered. I mean, if
Right.
the defense is bending but don't break, but the offense is breaking, Dean Pease can't do anything about that. That's a mindset and a cultural issue, and quite frankly, talent and personnel that Arthur
Yes,
Smith
Lord.
and Dave are going
Amen.
to have to right exactly that
Amen.
kind of work with what they work with, right? Dean
Yes.
Pease, on the other hand, he actually had a more robust group to work with this year versus last year. But
Indeed.
honestly, we're starting to see things that are kind of coming apart at the seams. I mean, and these are things that are not his fault. No one knew that Casey Hayward was going to be done, right? No one
Right.
knew that we were going to lose AJ Terrell for a couple of weeks. Now Arnold KT, Taquan Graham is on IR. So when you start thinking about those pieces that you
Right.
had really expected to take that defense to the next level, some of those pieces simply have not been at his disposal for a consistent period of time. But if we think about what the defense was showing us when they were at his disposal, that's what I look back at to say, yes, I do believe that the culture shift and the culture change is real on the defensive end. And I wouldn't doubt, Jarvis, if when we come back from the bye, you see that when they go down to New Orleans, because that defense has not forgotten what the Saints and Jameis Winston snatched from them in that first
Yes.
week.
Yes,
So
indeed.
I really believe we're going to see Dean Pease cultural shift and philosophy in action at its finest next Sunday.
I'm with you on that because I think that those outside linebacker positions, we might see some different faces over
Oh,
there. Yeah, I think D'Angelo Malone's going to be getting a lot more playing time if Ebiketie is healthy. I
mhm.
think he's going to be getting a
Oh
lot
yeah,
more snaps as well. So all those young players and AJ Terrell is rounding into what we're used to seeing from AJ Terrell. So
mhm.
all those things are going to be factors in making sure that Dean Pease establishes what he wants to establish and get to the once he gets more talent, be able
Yeah,
to say, "Hey, I know what the hell I'm doing," and I wholeheartedly believe he does too. Now,
right.
if you wholeheartedly want to get some money, how about this? Go to betonline.net because it is the easiest and fastest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Now, all the bowl games are set. But down here, people in Georgia, wherever you watching from on YouTube or listening to on this audio, whatever audio platform you're listening to, check this out. I had to go to December 31st, T. That's when Georgia plays Ohio State.
Yes.
Georgia's only favored by a touchdown now. So this
Yeah.
this line has been moving a little bit. So
Mhm.
I think that's something that you're trying to figure out. What you guys listen to us for all your information as far as ATL sports go. How about this? Go to Bet Online because they have live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. So yeah, you can get all the information just like you get all the ATL sports information from us. You can
Yes.
get it from Bet Online as well. So what I want you to do is head to Bet Online today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today because Bet Online is where the game starts.
Yes. Now you got Hawks Knicks tonight, and the Knicks are actually favored by 1.5 points. But I bet Trae Young has something to say about that. We shall see. He is
Yeah.
up there along with the rest of the Hawks squad to take on the Knicks at Madison Square Garden tonight. And of course, we know this is the space and place where no matter what is happening, 1 game, 10 games, 20 games before he takes on the Knicks. We know he circles this on his calendar because this is what motivates him and gets him going. And that's actually what you want. This might be the
Yeah.
type of game that gives you exactly what you want and need out of him and what can potentially reset the trajectory for him. And Jarvis, if this game resets the trajectory for him, then that's a good look for potential reset for the Hawks, especially as they continue to go through what I consider their maybe toughest 6-month stretch, 6-game stretch of the young NBA season. That said, however, there's still drama.
Yeah.
There's still a little bit of a dark cloud kind of lingering from all of what we've heard, the fallout between Nate and Trae, and then kind of the fallout overall. That said, do you believe that there's an easy fix, a short term, a quick fix in order to deal with this drama? Or do you think this is something that's going to take a little bit longer? Or is this really not that serious anyway? Let's just press on. There's a game to be played tonight.
I think the short term fix is just Trae just playing better, right? Because we know if Trae plays well, this team is gonna go. Like
Mhm.
it's just everything falls into place when because it starts with Trae Young, and that's how the Hawks have set this roster up. You
Yeah.
know, Trae Young is the face of the franchise. Trae Young
Mhm.
is the guy that people go to for answers. And
Right.
when you don't give answers that are conducive to helping move along the situation and you
Mhm.
blow it up yourself by the way you respond to those answers,
Yeah.
this is what you get. So
Mhm.
if you're not gonna fess up and stand up and say what you need to say in order to move on, even if you still kind of feel a certain type of way about it, because
Mhm.
hey, you got to put your feelings aside in certain situations, especially when you are that guy, when you're the guy, regardless of your leadership qualities, you need to
Mhm.
be able to put things aside. So if he's able to put this aside and understand all the hate that's about to come his way, all
Yes.
the heckling that's about to come his way, Madison Square
Oh,
Garden,
yeah.
because that's just how they love to do him.
Mhm.
He needs to conjure up Petty Trae. Petty
Yeah.
Trae needs to come out tonight, and I
Yes.
think that if that comes out, that's an easy short term fix. And as far as long term goes, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's a trade T that can potentially right this ship and
Mhm.
kind of open guys' eyes and like, hey man, you know, uh, we need to get this thing together and figure it
Yes.
out. Or you know, and I think that the option that I
Mhm.
don't want the option that I don't want to happen
Mhm.
is people start talking about and start trying to blame this stuff on Nate, and I
Yeah.
don't think Nate necessarily deserve that type of criticism this early on in the season.
I agree. And one thing I thought about, I actually saw a really cool video on Instagram from Lou Williams
Mhm.
last night. He is kind of coaching up and mentoring and motivating his old team, South Gwinnett High.
Okay.
And just watching him in that 2 minute video, and this funniest thing, because Lou Wills, like every third word was an expletive. That's why we're not playing it on ATL Day Ones.
Yeah,
That's why
keep
I'm
it
just
clean on
going
the
to give
show.
you yeah, I'm going to
Family
give you the
friendly.
Cliff Notes PG version of what he said. But
He did.
essentially, he was telling them how every possession counts, and he was sharing with them that when you play ball, you've got to stay focused, and it's got to be, that same energy, that same intensity, start to finish. So
Right.
again, part of the reason that the Hawks have kind of faded out, and I also heard a clip from Clint Capella, and he was saying like, "Hey, we in the front court need to do a little bit better, so we don't put our back court in certain situations." But I would challenge that slightly. I do agree with him
Mhm.
as far as what the heck are the 3 and 4 doing to help out the five, especially the subs at the 3 and at the 4. But I
Right.
can't say that's going to be the end of the discussion or the situation. You still have to get more from your backcourt because Shea Gilgis Alexander is who torched you, even
Yeah.
though 58 points were scored in the paint. But that's essentially who torched you. So there still has to be some uptick in the backcourt play. And I do believe if to your point, Trae sets that tone early tonight and then is consistent with it. My definition of consistency, by the way, is what I see mid to late third quarter. Because
Yeah.
what I see mid to late third quarter, 9 times out of 10 is what's going to carry over into that fourth quarter and get them the win. So, yeah, my eyes will most certainly be on Trae and kind of seeing how he sets that tone and how he consistently keeps that tone late in that third quarter.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Because we know what the issues are. We talked about the issues when Nate McMillan first took over, and
Mhm.
we're starting to see some of those same things. Is not being able to finish out games because we know the Hawks were supposed to beat the Oklahoma City
Oh,
Thunder,
yeah, yeah.
and and the thing about them is they knew what they were faced with, right? They knew that the Oklahoma City Thunder wasn't a team that is going to sit back and launch threes all game.
Right.
That's not their style. They're going to get to the basket, and that's what they do.
Mhm.
And that's it. Night in, night out, you're going to have to shift your attention right to certain
Yeah.
things. Right. That's what they call. With the unfortunate thing about winning NFL, like, hey, you can come up with a game plan for a whole week because
Yes.
you only play once a week. But when it
Mhm.
comes to the NBA, you play every other night. You know what I'm saying? So pretty consistently. So you're going to have to adjust your game plan or adjust your attention to certain
Mhm.
things and understand that hey, this is the team that's going to try to penetrate.
Right.
And New York, not so much. They're gonna launch some threes. So you have to be close. It's gonna have to be a lot of closeouts tonight in order for the Hawks
Mhm.
to get that dub.
That's another point that Lou Will made as well, the attention to detail. And,
Mm-hmm.
I do TV sideline reporting for the Skyhawks this season. And one of the things that their coach, Coach Steve Gansey, said was, I'm going to keep this simple. And this is a tip from the Skyhawks and Coach G. On offense, all you have to do is shoot the shot that the defense gives you. So
Yeah.
whether that's Trae Young or the entire squad, when it comes to the third quarter, especially, and if you have a huge lead, just continue to take what the defense gives you. Definitely don't fall back and settle for shots the way we totally kind of saw them do late in that game Monday. And also, Jarvis, follow the ball. Like
Yeah.
wherever the ball is, go defend there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if every man just understands that assignment, the Hawks should be more than fine tonight. And not just tonight, Jarvis, but I'm looking at it as if it's kind of the 6 game stretch that we talked about, where I think they should be able to easily go 3-3, even without DeAndre Hunter, even without John Collins, right? But
Mhm.
once we get past that 6 game window, now we're also talking about what are you going to do for the rest of this month? What are you taking? What energy are you taking into January? Because we don't want to say that's kind of when it really starts, but that's kind of when you start seeing players and coaches and GMs evaluated a little bit more as you're getting closer to that trade deadline, as you're getting closer to that all-star break. So yeah, all eyes on Gotham tonight. But as you all know, the game isn't until 7:30. So you have more than enough time to check out ATL day ones. And then once you check us out and like Jarvis said, maybe binge watch on us, you can go binge watch Locked On Sports today. That should be your daily stop as well. Because if you want reaction to this kind of story, this kind of ongoing story, that's where you get it from. And if you want to take on the biggest stories, we just found out some tough news in the NFL for a team that is favored to get to the Super Bowl, if not win it. The Buffalo Bills have lost Von Miller for the season. So you get a reaction to big stories like that right there on Locked On Sports today. And you guys always give us so much love for the culture. They have their version of it called Take of the Day. So be sure to check them out where you check us out. The Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you download your podcast. It is Locked On Sports today, where all the big news is going down.
Absolutely. Locked On Sports Atlanta family. Guess what? We have a show email.
Yes.
So if you want to get in touch with us, if you want to give us a comment, you want to send us a request, if you just want us to send us some money, atlday1s@gmail.com. It's okay. I'm not going to push back or hate or anything like that. It's hard out here. Inflation and all that good stuff. So, get in contact with us. Oh, yeah. Quick shout out to my guy, Chef the Entertainer. He's been emailing us and letting us know how you feel about the show. We appreciate you, Chef, for rocking with us. If you want to get in touch with us like Chef did, atlday1s@gmail.com. But this is for the culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, and the culture. Sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's how we get down on this show. Today is no different. Now, T, I think everybody else know that how much we enjoy NBA on TNT.
Yeah.
That show is the best studio show I probably watched in my lifetime. Outside of Fox, back in the day, not now, but back in the day, the Fox NFL pregame show. But yeah, I think that's some of the things that I just enjoy those guys from the chemistry and everything. And last night kind of exemplified that when we saw, Kenny Smith going to the little telestrator, to do his little thing, and then Shaq tried to race him, and as Shaq was running beside him, Kenny Smith just don't push the man right on into the Christmas tree. And Shaq, probably being Shaq, just kind of over exaggerated and then fell into the tree and all that stuff. And then Chuck and everybody came over there to help him out and pull him out of the Christmas tree. But I think that when you think about things like that, T, like that's just got to be one of the coolest things in the world, to just be able to have that type of chemistry and be able to do certain things like that on a studio television show, a national one at that.
Yeah, so I will give you guys a little secret that maybe I don't even know if Jarvis do, but I have been on Inside the NBA on that show before. There was a time where they would give away like one of the I know, right? All kinds of great stories.
What?
So yeah, they used to have this Hyundai, which was one of their sponsors for Ernie's Neato Stat of the Night, which used to say brought to you by nobody, but it was actually brought to you by Hyundai. So
Okay.
they needed is essentially a version of Vanna White to come in and kind of showcase the car. So they had a Vanna Black and a Vanna White, and I was
Okay.
Vanna.
Nice. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah. So and Charles was so gracious that night, and Shaq had some funny things to say that I will not repeat to you all because it's none of your business.
I can
But yeah,
imagine.
it's just great to be on that show. Those guys were just wonderful, and there's just like you said, it's just a free for all. I mean, it's a free for all in front of the camera, but a lot of it starts behind the scenes as well with their directors, their producers, and just all of the energy they have leading up to what you see on air. So yeah, that's a jewel. And like you said, not shocking that Kenny would do what he did, but really not shocking that Shaq would take it over the top. I mean, that's what makes that show that show.
Absolutely. And I think that that's one of the things that show is gonna last as long as those guys want it to. And I
Yes,
think they're willing to pay whatever to keep those guys around. We saw that with Chuck, up here
yes, with that
negotiating with
whole flirtation with
yeah,
Liv.
flirtation with Live Golf. Man, get out of here, Chuck. Stop playing around, man. Don't give the people what they want. But I think somebody else wanted something out here in Austell, Georgia. There was his young brother or young man that a 21-year-old man goes into a Chevron gas station, T,
Okay,
and decides that he don't want to rob the store. That's not worth his time.
right.
He's gonna go to the little gaming machine in the back, which is run by the Georgia Lottery, and take an axe to the gaming machine to the tune of 21 times, T, and he ended up getting like $2,800. So I guess, maybe I guess it was worth it.
It's $2,800 worth of bid, people. I'm just asking for a friend. And you can go ahead and put it in the comments. But for my friend, that friend would say, hell to the no, no, no. Because we actually, Jarvis, believe it or not, we had this conversation, we had this debate at the station today at 92.9 The Game, where I do the morning and midday shows. And so
Right.
he was this friend to this show, and I, along with our guy Day Day Lewis, we were literally sitting there debating like what would be the thing that would be worth your time to actually like catch a case.
Right, yeah.
$2,800 ain't it, boo. If you're catching a case, I'm going to need it to be like 2.8 mil. I'm not even catching a case for 28 grand, because if you think it's
Ooh.
hard out in these streets when you're free, try to be behind bars. Good luck, dude. And no, you're real foolish for that, because no, $2,800. I actually probably would have beaten myself up if that's all I got out of there. And listen, it took me back to, if you are someone like me and you're a fan of the Friday franchises,
No doubt, yeah.
and you're a fan of the barbershop franchises,
Absolutely.
check that barbershop franchise. You remember the Anthony Anderson scene where they steal
Make it the ATM.
Don't do it. That was your cautionary tale, dude. That was your
Oh my goodness.
cautionary tale of what not to do. But what you guys should do, as always, is join us each and every day, because we bring you all the fun and funny stories and for the culture, but also any and everything that's going on around this ATL sports scene.
Absolutely. And make sure y'all, after y'all check us out, check out Locked On Sports Today, because they have everything you need as far as all the national stories. And you can find them wherever you find us. So download them wherever you get your podcast. Y'all make sure y'all come back now. You hear?